Hello, I am Chair. I'm here to prop you up. That's the good Dr. Corey Petty there with me. And today we are here to talk a little bit about the Logos stack and the Logos Basecamp core application, which you see me sharing my screen of presently. Logos is a decentralized technology stack. It includes blockchain, messaging, and storage modules. And from the Logos Basecamp application, you can access and run all of those modules within one native desktop application. So in this video, we will explore all of the things that you can do now in terms of installing and running the Logos blockchain app, as well as running a node from the command line. Now, before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about what the Logos tech stack is and some of the problems that it's looking to solve.
It's always good to start with what the problem is. And that is, even if you look at mainstream blockchain applications, they're not taking into account the rest of the tech stack when building applications. They get a portion of the way there by giving you decentralized and resilient consensus, which you can build things like business logic off of and adversarial networks. But every time you try to build a full application, you end up using a bunch of other centralized infrastructure to then package it all together, which then in a lot of instances removes all the properties you wanted to get in the first place. And so Logos is an attempt to build an entire tech stack from the ground up, such that when you build a decentralized application or a resilient application, one that can't be tampered with or taken over, can't be surveilled, you want to make sure that all the pieces that you're using are in the same place and providing the same guarantees, or you know when these guarantees are being given up. And so we built all of that, and then we built this glue module we call Basecamp to make it easy to put it all together and build things on top of it for anybody. And a good portion of that is that you can bring your own modules too, which then get natively exposed and easy to interoperate with the modules we already have. So not only do you get the base infrastructure, you get a bunch of supporting infrastructure to build the things you want to build too, all through Basecamp. And why do we want to do that? Because we think civil society needs to be revitalized, and that all the things and technology we use to coordinate, talk, become activists, exit, do commerce with each other, broadcast, all of it is using its infrastructure that doesn't support us. And we want to build a framework in which we can rebuild infrastructure that is supportive to the people who want to gather and do something.
I think these points are very well articulated in the book Farewell to Westphalia, which is authored by Peter Ludlow and Jared Hope. Jared being the co-founders of Logos, and who has been around crypto since very early Bitcoin days and through the launch of Ethereum and the work on status and continuing into Logos. It addresses some of the core failures in the institutions and the systems that most people rely on. Rampant uncontrolled debt, rampant surveillance, rampant corruption across most, if not all, populations and nation states and systems are plaguing humanity, and it have been for a long time. Through Bitcoin and Ethereum and a litany of other crypto and blockchain projects, there have been steps taken along the way, like each project pushing a little bit closer towards what can be, or what is through Logos now, a unified system. Each project that has preceded it has had its shortcomings. And as you mentioned, Ethereum being the great world computer and world decentralized database, it's still in many different places, up to 7 different places, goes through centralized choke points to bring that functionality to the end user. Logos Circles is the social movement that corresponds to the technology that Logos is building. Logos Circles are local community-based organizations or groups that look to identify a winnable issue that is local and specific to that group's geography that can be solved either directly with organization from the group, or even better, with Logos technology. So finding an issue that the local population or that community faces and looking to implement a solution either via Logos technology or built on Logos technology, or direct impact from the Circle group to that community.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that basing what we're building in real world problems, and you only do that by getting real people together, finding problems, identifying what needs to be done to fix them, and then targeting what you're building towards that. So if you look at the very base layer, layer 1, we have what's called liblogos, which is the core runtime. It's effectively all the pieces you'd need to make sure that you can load models and modules and run them and maintain their life cycle with as minimal footprint as possible. So we have three kind of core ideas here between module lifecycle management. So when you had to load, monitor, and unload modules, and when they exit, reload them, things like this. You have the IPC, or inter-process communication. Currently, that's Qt remote objects between modules. So that's how modules talk to themselves. The layer 1 liblogos handles that part too. And then process isolation is a key property of this whole thing, because we want to make sure that potentially malicious processes don't impact the other ones that are running, or failure in one doesn't have a failure in another one. Say, for instance, if your messaging module crashes for some reason, it doesn't stop your blockchain node. And so we have built this into the core layer. And once you have this, you can build things on top. Like if you abstract a little bit further and ask what nodes need to do in networks like this, is find other nodes and then send them messages. And so the networking layer that we provide above this is the kind of most generalized set of tools and services that are available to that, which is what we have the blend network, which is a type of mixed network, but not necessarily the same thing. And we also have capability discovery protocol. And then what that means is that when I log in, I have a protocol that allows me to find computers, other nodes running these services, and a very large network or a number of networks. It cares about the resources of the computer that it's on, regardless of the service. So in the event that there are people running these services, we have a method to find services like them and only connect to those nodes. So I join the networks that I care about based on the services I'm trying to run or contribute to or consume from. You go above that, we start with the general module. The general modules that then take advantage of all this. And that's the Logos blockchain, Logos storage, and Logos messaging. The three default modules that, in our opinion, are the pillars required to actually build decentralized applications, resilient decentralized applications. And then we have a number of user interfaces, the wallet, the chat UI, file sharing UI, Explore UI, which then use those modules in various ways to allow you to easily interact with them. At any point in this, a user can build their own modules and introduce them in that layer of the stack to build the experience they want. So zooming in on the messaging module itself, one of the pillars of the Logos tech stack and Basecamp, is two main abstractions, two packages, if you will. That's transport and delivery. And transport is the idea of creating the tubes required to send messages. How do you do that? So we have the MixNet, we have various ways of setting up encrypted communication channels, so on and so forth. And that's the package that provides you all the things you need to create the communication tubes you need for your application. And then delivery is effectively a chat. It's all the types of protocols you need to then communicate with people via chat. And that provides a lot of the guarantees like pervert forward secrecy, end-to-end encryption, X3DH for key exchange, like all the different types of things that you want. In transport, or how we set these networks up, we do this in a privacy-preserving manner. And one of the key hallmarks that's been difficult to solve in such an environment is spam. And for that, we have a homegrown solution called rate limiting nullifiers that we've worked on in the past for a number of years that allows us to rate limit any individual user in a privacy preserving way. So that manages the spam. So it allows us to make these decentralized private networks for communication. For group chat, we have what's called decentralized MLS. MLS is the standard protocol for building group chats in most chat applications, but we've altered it in a way to make it work in a decentralized context. We need central servers for this type of protocol to work. And that's live now. It's a real Rust library published to crates.io. Anyone can use it, and it's built into Logos as well. Zooming in on Logos storage, it's always good to be able to send large files in a network. Unfortunately, for most infrastructure, that means you're relying on some central service to look at what you sent and who you sent it to. So we built Logos storage to allow people to send people files, retrieve files, in a way that is hopefully more performant and more private than something like BitTorrent. And once we have that level of a primitive where we can move large amounts of data around in a privacy preserving manner, then we can build durability into the network. It allows you to have guarantees that when you store a file on the Logos storage network, it'll be there and you'll be able to retrieve it for some period of time. And that's a very difficult thing to do when you're trying to maintain privacy and you try to ask people to store things for you and don't tell them what it is, or don't give them an incentive to do it. So the idea of Logos storage is to have this place where you can move files around in a privacy preserving manner. One of the key properties of Logos storage is that files are identified in the network by the content themselves, meaning that in the event I upload the exact same file that someone else has to the network, it doesn't re-upload it. It's the same thing spread across the network more. So you never have redundancy in the network if anything is the same. And that also gives you the ability to be very sure that what you're retrieving is exactly what you think it is. There's no way to falsify that information because the identifier on the network is the content. There's a hash of the content. So that gives you a lot of properties that you can't get, like using a DNS entry when trying to serve a front end. It's very important when you're accessing your multi-sig front end You know that the front end is exactly the one you're supposed to use, not some malicious one that's going to change the address and route your money somewhere else. This allows us to give you those guarantees. And finally, we can talk a little bit more about Logos blockchain. Logos blockchain is a blockchain built from the ground up to try and do more than other blockchains have in the past, and specifically in rooting it in privacy at the lowest point in which you can go, and lowering the amount of resources required to both run and participate into the network. And it does this in a number of ways. So it starts off by, one of the hallmarks is it's run off of Cryptarchia, more generally private proof of stake, meaning that when I put up stake, the network, some network onlooker can't tell how much stake I have and how much I contribute to the network in the validation process. This is something that no other blockchain is capable of offering. And having this type of thing and the way in which we do it allows us to become closer to the type of properties that proof of work like systems like Bitcoin have, where entering into the system and contributing via mining is a much more fluid and private process. We've just done this with proof of stake and a bunch of zero knowledge, really cool zero knowledge technology. So we do that with Cryptarchia, which is our consensus protocol, combined with something like a blend net, which isn't quite a blend net. We have an article, you can go check it out on press.logos.co for way more details, that allows us to route messages in a way where people can contribute to the consensus process without anyone understanding how new block proposals have been submitted and who they were submitted from, but only that they're valid, which allows us to add privacy into the stack at a much, much, much lower layer other protocols were, while still maintaining low resource requirements for participating. Additionally, once we have this generalized consensus via private proof of stake, then we've also built an execution environment, the Logos execution zone, that sits on top of it, which is a programmable zone, which gives the user the ability to choose what state is public and what state is private without having to change the code. And that's a new way of doing things too. This is a RISC-V. Programs are compiled to the RISC-V, run inside the RISC-0 ZK VM. Public transactions execute on-chain normally. Private transactions execute off-chain on the user's device and submit zero-knowledge proofs. Validators verify those proofs without ever seeing the transaction details. What this does is give the user or the developer selective disclosure. You get to introduce information disclosure when you want it to, instead of the infrastructure forcing it on you. All right. Going to install a node via the instructions on the Logos blockchain release page that gives you all the kind of details of downloading a binary for the Logos blockchain, one of the release binaries, and then installing the circuits, and then getting it started, getting it bootstrapped, getting some money, checking it, things like this. So let's start off by downloading both the circuits and the node itself. I am running on an Intel system, so we need x86 architecture, and the circuits. Both of these are quite small, so not that big of a deal. Let's see, move. I've unpackaged that. I want to move them. Okay, so move this whole directory to, it tells you to move it to home directory.logos blockchain circuits. Good. So that's there. Circuits are installed. Now I'm going to download and unzip the node binary, which you've already done. So it's going to be now we have a binary. Generate our default configuration, where we're going to connect to a couple bootstrap peers, and this command here, which is Logos blockchain node init, and then link to a number of peers, which are bootstrap peers that are running on the network now. All right, now we have a config here. Take a look at the config just to take a look. Gives a bunch of the parameters on how we want this thing to work. If you're interested, go take a look at that. Let's see here. I should be able to do hole punching based on my network. Shouldn't have to worry about any of that type of stuff. It's all kind of configured nicely so it finds its way out to the internet and connects and punches the right holes to your router so that people can connect to you if you have UPnP installed. Otherwise, you have to do some port forwarding, make sure. We're in the node. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward from here.
run it, and then you want to point config you just generated to it. So run the node under that config. There it goes. And rough. So let's make a new. Let's test it. Basically curl against that node that's running on localhost 8080 by default. There you go. So now we have a lib, tip, slot, height, mode, bootstrapping. We are currently running a Logos blockchain node.
And just about 160,000 blocks to catch up with.
It takes a little while to catch up. I mean, it goes fast. This thing probably rips if you look at this thing. It's going. It's catching up fast. So let's see. What were we at?
We're at 239.
That's height 239. Let's do it again. We're now at height 3,500.
This is the headless approach. This is the not through Logos blockchain application way to run a node.
You just want to run it straight, the straight binary. You can also, other options, which will run this through, I don't know if it's done yet. You will be able to run node versions, headless node versions via Logos Basecamp.
And of course, if you are interested in running a node yourself, you should visit build.logos.co to find the documentation Corey has followed here just now.
This is on the GitHub, the Logos blockchain GitHub, but our build.logos.co has point you in the right direction for anything you want to do.
Awesome. So that is running a node via the command line.
You can right now go to build.logos.co to download Logos Basecamp. There are app images available for Linux, DMG files for Macs. When you do launch the Logos blockchain application, liblogos will start, modules will load in isolated processes, and the sidebar will show you the blockchain, storage, messaging, wallet, and package manager modules. In that package manager module, you can choose exactly which plugins you are running. You choose exactly what runs on your machine. So right now, you can and should visit build.logos.co, install the Logos Basecamp application. If you are a developer, you can right now use the Logos scaffold repository to create your Logos execution zone application. You can think of it as a Create React app or a Scaffold ETH style scaffold repository. There are 5 commands that you can use, including create, setup, local net start, build, and deploy. There is a unified API pattern. There are wallet management and scaffold doctor for diagnostic features, and the developer tools are actively being worked on. This comes from the Logos ecosystem development engineering team. The Logos scaffold repo is ready for you to work with it. So go to the Logos Co organization, Logos-scaffold repository to get started. So we have covered today a number of things, including how to run a node from the command line, how to install Logos Basecamp, where to find all the developer tools and material at build.logos.co. We covered the Logos storage, messaging, and blockchain modules, respectively. At the top, we covered Logos circles and where you can go. That is logos.co/circles to get started and learn more about circles that might be happening in your area. As a reminder, Logos testnet v0.1 is live and currently sits at 160,000 blocks as its block height. That is the tip of the chain. Lambda prizes are live if you would like to contribute. Build one of the issues that are listed in the Lambda prize section at the Builder Hub. The time is now to go forward. Lambda prizes are live at the Builder Hub, build.logos.co. We also have Logos office hours every Friday. It is your opportunity to speak directly with Logos core contributors. You can find the office hours at the Logos calendar at press.logos.co/calendar. That is where you will find the office hours link. Those are just some of the things that you can do right now on Logos. Go to logos.co, build.logos.co to start your journey.